I'm grateful to Anna O'Donoghue and to the committee that organised this event and went to so much trouble to make it happen for the invitation. I want to take the opportunity as well to thank the numerous good people I've met here today who've been a great help to me over the years, not least during my unsuccessful but very enjoyable European election campaign in 2014. I had a great team in Cavan in particular, and I met some of them here today. And thanks for all you've done for me, and maybe will continue to do. And also what you're doing for Father Tobin and his very important political work. Just listening to Father, I admire him so much, and I admire the good work that he does. And I really do like it when I see, people spreading the good word about it too. As an independent, I have to keep friends with everybody, as you know. And it is a bit like the fella down our way was supposed to have said once, "Well, God is good," and just in case he gets struck down, he said that the devil himself isn't too bad. Now I don't want to endorse that sentiment, but I did find myself. There's great work being done by numerous organisations, and Life Institute and the Pro-Life campaign have been mentioned here today, and deservedly so, and so inspiring. And Peter happens to be a friend of mine, but also he has a very good fortune of being, his family are based in a place called Haskell, County Galway. So we do a bit of good down there, but very inspired by what Peter and the students are doing. And we had a very inspiring occasion last Saturday. Some of you may even have been at it. We had, I'd say, nearly 600 people in the Burlington Hotel for our annual Kelura Coshlifa, the annual dinner for pro-life education. This is an event that I started with the pro-life campaign back in 2015. Partly about fundraising, of course, for the pro-life campaign's good work in education and supporting people like Peter and others in schools and colleges and so on, but also to have a morale-boosting event where people come in large numbers and celebrate in a positive atmosphere and see each other and see people they knew but didn't know were advocates of and supporters of the pro-life cause. That's a hugely positive thing, and there were absolutely tons and tons of young people at it last Saturday night in the Burlington. And we also had a really wonderful and inspiring speaker, Lord Alton of Liverpool, David Alton, who many of you will be familiar with. His tremendous work over 40 years in British politics, probably the leading pro-life politician in the English-speaking world, a mentor and friend to many of us. His mother was a native Irish speaker from Tourmakeety in County Mayo, and he brings the best of his Irishness, and he's also very, very English in ways to his work. But it was one of those inspiring occasions. But one of the things I've always been saying, because I'm always bothering people trying to get them to go to this event, is this is the kind of event you can bring your skeptical brother-in-law to, Do you know the way we're always trying to widen the tent, and we really have to in the pro-life movement, because we need to look the reality straight in the face and say, in terms of understanding the challenge of our times, there's an awful lot of goodness out there, but in terms of people who get the importance that there can be no exceptions when it comes to honouring and respecting human dignity, and we can't carve out a section of the human race and say, human rights for the rest of us, but not for you. And we can't redefine human rights, as many seek to do, sadly and successfully at times, so as to exclude the rights of some of the most vulnerable people. In terms of the number of people in our society who get the need for such inclusivity, we need to cheerfully, it's hard to be cheerful about it, but we need to be cheerful and realistic and say that we are in a minority right now, and it seems so wrong that point of view should be voting-wise in the minority. But that is where we are in our country. We have joined the international Western consensus, but that's only for now. And our task is to change our generation as much as we can. And there's so much raw material out there in the goodness, the sometimes uninformed goodness of many of our contemporaries. Of course, we're struggling with evil ourselves in our own hearts, don't get me wrong. It's not like we're the saints and they're the sinners, but those of us who are blessed to understand the pro-life position know that there are many, many good people in our own families, among our friends, who sadly don't get it, who don't get the need to ensure that our society includes everybody, and who don't get the importance of working for and electing politicians and political parties who will work for that society that includes everybody. So in many ways, the big task for us as we take inspiration from people like Peter and Bernadette and Linda on screen and Anna and of course Father PJ and everybody who's speaking today is how do we take the good stuff out of an event like this today and get the word around and draw other people into that conversation. And therefore it's a matter of different things. It's I think of Lord Reith, who was he was the first Director General of the BBC. So I suppose you're talking about 100 years ago or 80 or 90 years ago when he was around. But he talked about the purpose of broadcasting as being to educate, to inform and to entertain, Now, on something as kind of grave as the abortion in our world and the right to life, does it make sense to think about educating, informing and entertaining? And I think it does actually. Because first of all, informing, we need to know everything you already knew, a lot of what you heard here today. But the terrible, movement to try and expand our already terrible abortion law and make it even worse in terms of abolishing the three-day waiting period. How many people know, despite the corrupting influence of an absolutely non-independent review body, which only spoke to those who wanted to advance abortion, we know that a large number of women, each year since abortion has been legal, and tragically our abortion figures are going up, but we know that a very, very large number of women did not go back for the second consultation. And it isn't just, despite what pro-abortion voices would say, it isn't just because they had miscarriages and didn't need to go ahead with abortion. We know any objective look at the figures, because they're quite substantial. You're talking, I think, about 16 or 17% not following through for the second appointment in terms of the abortions that are generally available up to 12 weeks. That tells you that some people are, during that vital 3-day period, changing their mind. Now, it's a tragedy that any abortions take place, but it is a mercy that at least some of them that are intended at the start do not take place. So when you think about informing people, it's really important that we get that message out to anybody we can have that conversation with, and our politicians. As bad as our laws are, at least some people are not going ahead with abortions because there is a 3-day waiting period. It's not a case of, it's about trying to make the worst situation just bad. We're trying to ameliorate a bad situation. But that's an example of the kind of information that we need to share in whatever way we can. Also, the fact that we have, better protection in terms of pain relief for animals under important animal welfare legislation, but no openness to a conversation about having precautionary pain relief in situations where late-term abortions take place, as they do to some degree under our laws. And we heard stories about reports being done, and even those doctors involved in these late-term abortions, experiencing distress about what's happening. So, another important thing to inform our contemporaries about, that we need to start the conversation, at least about precautionary pain relief. I mean, it's absolutely barbaric that isn't there. Of course, we wouldn't want to stop there. We want to, in the end, restore a situation where there is full legal protection for every unborn child. But those are the kind of things that we need to inform our contemporaries about. Educate, inform and entertain. I suppose education, though, is about drawing out of other people. I think that's at least the origin of the term. And, good educators and teachers will say it's not just about throwing stuff into people's heads, but it is about drawing out of people what's already there in terms of educating and bringing forward what's best within them. And I think that's always going to be our challenge, is that how do we find that connection point with people who are brainwashed by our media, who are heavily influenced by a culture that is a throwaway culture, to use Pope Francis's phrase.